The Firewall tab covers two different application protection functions: IP-based access control lists at the top, and Web Application Firewall profiles at the bottom. In this video, we will cover the Web Application Firewall functionality found in the bottom half. In this table, you can create and manage WAF profiles. A WAF profile is essentially a collection of security checks and other settings that you then apply to a pack. You can create more than one profile and apply them to different packs, or even apply more than one profile selectively to the same pack. Let's click Add on the toolbar so you can see what I'm talking about. When you first click Add, you have to give your profile a name to create it. It's okay to do that because unless you apply your WAF profile in the configuration builder, nothing happens. So go ahead and create one to discover all of the features. Once created, you'll see a lot of options available for configuration. There are 19 security checks on this tab, all of which are disabled by default. On the Settings tab, you'll find several other options as well. I'm going to start here because it's important to note that even though none of the security checks were enabled on the other tab, you'll see here that there are a few things that are enabled, namely the inspected content types, the post body limit, which you can see set to 20 megabytes, and the multiple header actions. If I leave these settings configured with their defaults and apply this WAF profile to my pack, these protections will take effect. They aren't bad settings. In fact, we think they're pretty good, so that's why we have them enabled by default, but it's important to review them to ensure they are appropriate for your particular application. There is another setting here at the bottom of the list called Log All Traffic. This is a really handy feature for debugging. If you click it and apply this to your pack, you'll start seeing hits for all traffic going to your website in the WAF log tab pretty quickly. So if you just want to see the WAF in action and what it looks like, consider testing that. I won't cover the other items here on the Settings tab. We'll cover them in more detail in the online manual. But I'll head over to the Security Checks tab and cover a few of the basics. First, let's talk about the Allow Only URL. Generally, this is not used unless you only want to allow specific traffic to specific URLs. If you click the Edit icon under the Advanced column, you'll see that there are no entries in this table. That means that no URLs are allowed. So if you were to go back to enable the Allow URL, nobody would be able to get to any URL within your application. There are limited uses for this functionality, so I thought I'd start here to describe how this works. Implement it with caution. Conversely, the Deny URL acts in a way to only block URLs that you specify. So enabling it now has no effect. Then, if there is a URL that you want to block, for example, let's assume you have a WordPress site and you want to block access to the WP admin section, you could click to Add here, enable the new entry, and add a regular expression to block everything in the WP admin directory and beyond. Once you've done that, click the breadcrumb trail to go back to the main page and enable it. As an aside, I highly recommend logging all policies that you have enabled as well, or even logging those that you want to test first without blocking. If I just click Log, it will log what would be blocked, but not actually block it. I'm confident in this new rule, so I'm going to block and log. Cookie consistency has fewer settings. In fact, it has none. If you enable this, it will look for cookies that your application sends to ensure that when they are read by your application or returned by the user, they haven't been manipulated. If there are cookies that are supposed to be manipulated, you would then create exceptions here. There are always a few, so this is one of those cases where we recommend enabling logging first to see what would be blocked, and then add exceptions accordingly. Buffer overflow is another easy one. If you go into the Advanced section, you'll see you can specify 3 settings. These are pretty standard defaults, but it's important to review and test with your application. A URL with 1024 characters is pretty long, but we've seen query strings that are longer than that. So again, test with logging first. I'm going to skip credit card checks since it's pretty simple. Just enable the cards you want to see leaking their full numbers from your site. No site in the 21st century should ever display an unmasked card number on a page. Safe objects allow you to look for custom strings, like a social security number, a driver license number, or something along those lines. Form field consistency checks to ensure form fields submitted on your site haven't been modified inappropriately. There is also cross-site request forgery protection, cross-site scripting protection, HTML SQL injection, and a lot more. We cover these in more detail in the online manual, so I won't spend any more time discussing specific functions here. Once you've configured all of the protection methods to your liking, or at least have started with logging only to play it safe, don't forget to save your WAF profile. You now need to head over to the configuration builder and then click on your pack to apply it. Note that unlike the ACL, the WAF can only work on packs where you have the HTTP or SSL protocol enabled. Because the WAF uses deep Layer 7 content inspection, it can't help protect your application if it's encrypted. It must decrypt, inspect, and then re-encrypt to do its job. To apply it, click on the Firewall icon. I'll click Add from the toolbar, choose the profile I just created, select to apply it to all traffic, and click Save. Within a few minutes, it will take effect and start working. Keep an eye on the WAF log tab to see what's going on. That's really all there is to it. Fine-tune and review the WAF logs, and within no time your applications will be better protected.